The bridge of the Zelkari warship Crimson Talon buzzed with quiet activity. Admiral Vextar stood behind his command chair, his forearms folded across his chest as he watched the swirling lights of the Omega sector on the main screen. The region looked beautiful from a distance, with its purple and gold energy storms dancing through space like cosmic fire. But Vextar knew better than most how deadly those storms could be. "Admiral," called out his sensor officer, "we have movement in Sector 7. Vextar turned his large, reptilian head toward the officer. His yellow eyes narrowed. "Movement? That's impossible. Nothing can survive in those quantum storms." The sensor officer, a young Zelkari named Crix, checked his readings again. His hands shook slightly as he worked at his console. "Sir, I'm reading a ship. It's moving through the storm barriers like they don't even exist. Show me," Vextar ordered. The main screen changed to show a close-up view of the storms. There, moving steadily through the swirling energy, was a ship unlike anything in the Zelkari database. It was sleek and white, with blue markings along its sides. The vessel moved with purpose, not like a ship that was lost or in trouble. "Run a full scan," Vextar commanded. "I want to know everything about that ship." Far away, inside the human vessel USS Dakota, Captain Jake Sullivan sat in his command chair and studied the readings on his own screens. He was a tall man with graying hair and calm blue eyes. He had been in space for 20 years, but he had never seen anything quite like the Omega sector. "Lisa, what's our status?" he asked his science officer. Lieutenant Lisa Morgan looked up from her station. She was young, maybe 30, with short brown hair and bright green eyes. "Captain, the probability drive is working perfectly. We're existing in 17 different quantum states right now. The storms can't touch us because we're not really here in the way they expect." Jake nodded. The probability drive was new technology, so new that most humans didn't even know it existed yet. It let them be in many places at once until they chose which place they wanted to be. It sounded crazy, but it worked. "Any sign of the research team?" Jake asked. "Still picking up their distress signal," Lisa replied. "It's coming from deep inside the Forbidden Zone, about 6 hours away at current speed." Jake frowned. Dr. Alex Thompson and his team had been missing for 3 weeks. They had been studying some old ruins when their ship stopped sending messages. The rescue mission had brought the Dakota deep into space that no human had ever seen before. "Captain," called Communications Officer Amy Carter from her station, "I'm getting some strange readings. Looks like we have company." On the Dakota's main screen, 3 Zelkari ships appeared. They were big and dark, with weapons that glowed red in the starlight. The ships hung back, not getting too close to the quantum storms. Back on the Crimson Talon, Admiral Vextar stared at the scan results with growing alarm. The numbers didn't make sense. The human ship showed energy readings that were impossible. Its shields worked in ways that broke the known laws of physics. "Sir," Crix reported, "the ship is definitely human, but according to our database, humans are a primitive species. They only achieved faster-than-light travel 100 years ago. They shouldn't have technology like this." Vextar's claws clicked against his command chair. Humans were supposed to be weak. They lived on one small planet at the edge of known space. They had no empire, no great fleets, no advanced weapons. Yet here was one of their ships, doing the impossible. "Open a channel to High Command," Vextar ordered. "Priority 1. While the Admiral sent his urgent message, Chief Engineer Pete Johnson worked in the Dakota's engine room. He was a big man with rough hands and a friendly smile. The probability drive hummed around him, its crystal core glowing with soft blue light. "How's she holding up, Pete?" came Jake's voice over the communication system. "Like a dream, Captain," Pete replied. "This drive is something special. We're slipping through dimensions so fast that the storms can't even see us. It's like we're ghosts." Pete didn't mention that he still didn't fully understand how the drive worked. Human scientists had found the basic design in some old ruins on Earth's moon. They had built it and tested it, but the theory behind it was still a mystery. On the bridge, Amy Carter tried to contact the Zelkari ships. She was a small woman with red hair and a soft voice. She spoke several alien languages, but the quantum interference was making communication almost impossible. "Zelkari vessel, this is the USS Dakota," she transmitted. "We are on a rescue mission. We mean no harm." But the message came through as static and broken words. The Zelkari heard only fragments. Zelkari, Dakota, harm. To them, it sounded like a threat. Admiral Vextar received confirmation that 2 more battle fleets were on their way. The High Command was taking this very seriously. A human ship that could navigate the Omega Sector was either the greatest threat the galaxy had ever seen, or it represented technology beyond their understanding. "Sir," Crix called out, "the human ship is moving deeper into the Forbidden Zone." Vexitar watched as the USS Dakota disappeared into the thickest part of the quantum storms. Any other ship would have been torn apart instantly, but the human vessel moved through the chaos like it was sailing on a calm lake. Captain Sullivan stood on his bridge and looked at the swirling energy around them. Navigation Officer Rick Davis, a quiet man with steady hands, plotted their course through the maze of storms. "The distress signal is getting stronger," Lisa reported. "Whatever happened to the research team, they're still alive." Jake nodded. "Then we keep going. No matter what those alien ships think we're doing, we have people to save." The USS Dakota pushed deeper into the Omega Sector, leaving the Zelkari ships far behind. Admiral Vextar could only watch and wonder what the humans were really capable. In the depths of space, fear and misunderstanding began to grow into something that could threaten the peace of the entire galaxy. Fleet Commander Zethkol stood in the war room of the Zelkari High Command. The massive chamber was filled with holographic displays showing star maps and ship positions. His 6 advisors sat around the curved table, their faces grave with concern. "Show me the recording again," Zethkol ordered. The hologram in the center of the table replayed Admiral Vextar's message. The image of the human ship moving through the quantum storms looked impossible, even on the second viewing. "Commander," said his chief military advisor, a scarred veteran named Threx, "this changes everything. If humans can navigate the Omega Sector, they can reach any part of our empire without warning." Zethkol nodded slowly. He was old for a Zelkari, his scales faded to silver with age. He had fought in 3 wars and had never seen anything like this. "What do we know about human military capability?" "Very little, sir," replied Intelligence Officer Kell. She was younger than the others, with bright green scales that marked her as coming from the outer colonies. "Our last report said they had maybe 50 warships total. Small fleet, primitive weapons, basic shields." "Then how do you explain this?" Zethkol pointed at the hologram. "I can't, sir. Either our intelligence is completely wrong, or humans have made some kind of breakthrough that our scientists thought was impossible." Meanwhile, aboard the USS Dakota, Chief Engineer Pete Johnson was explaining the situation to his engineering team. The engine room was clean and bright, very different from the dark, cramped spaces on most alien ships. "The way I see it," Pete said, wiping his hands on a cloth, "we're not really doing anything that fancy. The probability drive just lets us be in multiple places at the same time. When the storms try to hit us, we're already somewhere else." Engineer Sarah Wells, a young woman fresh out of the academy, looked confused. "But Pete, doesn't that violate like every law of physics we know?" Pete grinned. "Maybe, but it works, doesn't it? Sometimes the best solutions are the ones that don't make sense on paper." The engineering team went back to their work, not knowing that their casual conversation would have shocked every scientist in the Zelkari Empire. To them, the probability drive was just another piece of equipment, like the faster-than-light engines or the artificial gravity generators. On the bridge, Captain Sullivan studied the tactical display. The Zelkari ships were still following them, but they couldn't get close enough to be a real threat. The quantum storms that protected the Dakota also kept the alien ships at a safe distance. "Amy, any luck with communications?" Jake asked. Amy Carter shook her head, frustrated. "The quantum interference is scrambling everything. I can send simple signals, but anything complex just turns into noise." "Keep trying. The last thing we need is a war starting because we can't talk to each other." What Jake didn't know was that his attempts at communication were making things worse. Every garbled transmission that reached the Zelkari ship sounded like coded military messages. The aliens were convinced that the humans were coordinating with hidden fleets. Back at Zelkari, High Command, the situation was getting more serious by the hour. 3 battle fleets were now moving toward the Omega sector. Each fleet had enough firepower to destroy a small planet. "Sir," reported Communications Chief Vask, "we're intercepting strange transmissions from the human ship. Our code breakers think it might be some kind of battle language." Zethkol leaned forward. "Battle language?" "Yes, sir. Short, repeated patterns. Very different from normal human speech. They might be giving orders to other ships we can't detect." The truth was much simpler. Amy was sending the same message over and over. This is the USS Dakota on a rescue mission, but the quantum storms turned her words into meaningless static that sounded mysterious and threatening to alien ears. Lieutenant Lisa Morgan was working at her science station, trying to get a clearer reading on the distress signal they were following. She was one of the smartest people on the ship with degrees in physics and xenobiology. "Captain," she called out, "I'm picking up some interesting data about this region. The quantum storms aren't natural. They're some kind of defense system." Jake turned to look at her. "Defense system? Built by who?" "Unknown. But the technology is very old, maybe thousands of years. And here's the strange part. The system seems to recognize us as friendly." This was another piece of information that would have terrified the Zelkari. The Omega sector had been forbidden for centuries because their ships were destroyed if they went too deep. But the human ship was being welcomed by the ancient defenses. Navigation Officer Rick Davis plotted their course deeper into the maze of storms. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke unless asked a direct question, but he was the best navigator in the human fleet. "Captain," Rick said softly, "the distress signal is getting much stronger. But we're entering a region that our maps show as completely empty." "Empty how?" Jake asked. "No stars, no planets, no anything, just quantum storms and gravitational anomalies. According to our sensors, there shouldn't be anything here that could support life." But there was something there. Dr. Alex Thompson and his research team were trapped somewhere in that empty space, sending out their desperate call for help. Admiral Vextar watched his long-range sensors as more Zelkari ships arrived. The human vessel was now deep inside the Forbidden Zone, in an area where no Zelkari had ever gone. His own ship couldn't follow without being torn apart by the storms. "Sir," reported Sensor Officer Crix, "we're detecting massive energy buildups in the deep zone. Whatever the humans are doing in there, it's affecting the entire region." Vextar felt a chill run down his spine. Energy buildups in the Omega sector usually meant only one thing. Someone was waking up the ancient defenses that had destroyed entire fleets in the past. "Send word to all ships," he ordered. "Maintain distance. Do not approach the Yar. Storm barriers under any circumstances." But even as he gave the order, Vexitar wondered if it would be enough. If humans could control the ancient defenses, they could use them as weapons. The Omega sector could become a base for human operations deep inside Zelkari space. The misunderstanding was growing worse with each passing hour. The Zelkari saw a calculated invasion. The humans saw a rescue mission. Neither side knew what the other was really thinking. Captain Sullivan made a decision that would change everything. "Rick, plot a course for the center of the energy readings. If our people are in trouble, that's where we'll find them." The USS Dakota moved deeper into the ancient maze, carrying its crew toward discoveries that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Behind them, 3 Zelkari battle fleets prepared for a war that neither side wanted, and both sides were beginning to think was inevitable. Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the USS Dakota and watched the chaos around them. The quantum storms had grown stronger as they moved deeper into the Forbidden Zone. Purple lightning danced across their view screen, and space itself seemed to twist and bend. "How are we doing, Lisa?" Jake asked his science officer. Lieutenant Lisa Morgan checked her readings. "The probability drive is handling everything perfectly. We're in 43 different quantum states right now. The storms keep trying to hit us, but we're never where they expect us to be." Behind them, the Zelkari fleet was having a much harder time. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as one of his escort ships got too close to a storm cluster. The quantum energy tore through the vessel's shields like they were made of paper. The ship exploded in a flash of green light. "Pull back," Vextar ordered. "All ships maintain maximum distance from the storm barriers." His communications officer looked up from her station. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Iron Fang. The storms are blocking all our signals." Vextar's claws clicked against his command chair. Another ship lost, and they were no closer to understanding what the humans were doing. The human vessel continued to move through the storms like they didn't exist. "Sir," called out sensor officer. "Crix, the human ship is heading for the deep core. That's the most dangerous part of the entire sector. Follow them," Vextar ordered. "But keep us at the edge of the storm zone. I want to know what they're really after." On the Dakota, Navigation Officer Rick Davis was plotting their course through increasingly dangerous space. His quiet voice was steady as he reported to the captain. "The distress signal is much stronger now, maybe 2 hours away. But Captain, the readings I'm getting don't make sense." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "According to our sensors, there's a planet ahead, but it shouldn't exist. The gravitational forces in this region should have torn any planet apart millions of years ago." Dr. Helen Martinez looked up from her xenobiology station. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Captain, I'm detecting something else. Artificial structures on that planet, very old but still active." Jake frowned. "How old?" "Hard to say exactly. But the energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. This technology predates everything. We know about galactic civilization." The news sent a chill through the bridge crew. Ancient technology in the hands of unknown builders was always dangerous, but they had people to rescue, so they pressed on. Behind them, the Zelkari fleet was growing larger. 2 more battle groups had arrived, bringing the total to nearly 100 ships. But they could only watch from the edge of the storm zone as the lone human vessel penetrated deeper into forbidden space. Fleet Commander Zethkol received Admiral Vextar's latest report with growing alarm. The humans were approaching the legendary deep core, a region that existed only in ancient Zelkari myths. According to the stories, the deep core was where the first ones had built their greatest weapons. "Sir," said his intelligence officer, "if the legends are true, the deep core contains technology that could destroy entire star systems. If the humans gain control of it..." Zethkol didn't need to hear the rest. He opened a direct channel to Admiral Vextar. "Admiral, you are authorized to use any means necessary to stop that human ship. The safety of the Empire depends on it." But Vextar knew it was hopeless. His ships couldn't get close enough to engage the human vessel. The storms that protected the humans also made it impossible for the Zelkari to attack. On the Dakota, Chief Engineer Pete Johnson was working with his team to keep the probability drive running smoothly. The deeper they went into the storm zone, the harder the drive had to work to keep them safe. "Pete," called engineer Sarah Wells, "I'm seeing some strange readings from the drive core. It's like something is trying to communicate with it." Pete walked over to look at her display. The quantum patterns were definitely unusual. "It looks like a handshake protocol. Something out there recognizes our technology." This was another piece of the puzzle that no one on the ship fully understood. The probability drive had been built from designs found in ancient ruins on Earth's moon. Now it seemed that those same builders had left technology throughout the galaxy. Captain Sullivan felt the ship slow down as they approached their destination. Through the view screen, he could see a planet hanging in space like a jewel. It was covered in structures that gleamed with their own inner light. "My God," whispered Communications Officer Amy Carter. "It's beautiful." The planet was indeed beautiful, but it was also impossible. It existed in a space where physics said no planet could survive. The structures covering its surface pulsed, with energy that had been burning for thousands of years. "Captain," Lisa reported, "I'm reading the distress signal clearly now. It's coming from the surface. Dr. Thompson's team is definitely down there. But they weren't alone. As the Dakota moved into orbit around the impossible planet, Their sensors detected something else. The ruins weren't empty. Something was moving. Among the ancient buildings, Admiral Vextar watched from the edge of the storm zone as the human ship reached the deep core. His worst fears were being confirmed. The humans had found the legendary world of the first ones. "Sir," Crix reported, "the planet is responding to the human ship. The entire surface is lighting up." On his view screen, Vextar could see the distant planet glowing brighter. Ancient systems that had slept for millennia were awakening. If the humans could control that technology, they would be unstoppable. "Send a message to High Command," Vextar ordered. "Tell them the humans have reached the deep core. Tell them—" He paused, trying to find words for something that seemed impossible. "Tell them the legends were true." On the surface of the ancient world, Dr. Alex Thompson and his research team huddled in a strange building that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. They had been trapped for weeks, unable to leave because their ship had been destroyed by the planet's defense systems. "Did you hear that?" asked team member Dr. Kevin Brown. He was a young archaeologist who specialized in ancient languages. "Hear what?" replied Dr. Thompson. "Engines. Someone's coming." Through the translucent walls of their shelter, they could see lights moving in the sky. A ship was descending through the quantum storms, somehow unaffected by the energy that had destroyed their own vessel. "Is it human?" asked Dr. Jennifer White, the team's linguist. Dr. Thompson activated his emergency beacon one more time. If it was a rescue ship, they needed to guide it to their location. If it wasn't, well, they were already trapped. Things couldn't get much worse. But things were about to get much more complicated. The arrival of the USS Dakota had awakened systems that had been dormant since the dawn of galactic civilization. Ancient guardians were stirring, and they would soon decide whether humanity was friend or foe. Captain Sullivan prepared to take his ship down to the planet's surface. Behind him, 100 Zelkari warships waited at the edge of the storm zone, ready for a battle that could reshape the galaxy. And on the ancient world below, secrets older than any living species were about to be revealed. The USS Dakota landed on the ancient planet with a gentle thud. Captain Jake Sullivan looked out at the alien landscape through the view screen. Strange buildings rose from the ground like crystal trees, glowing with soft blue light. The air outside looked breathable, but Jake wasn't taking any chances. "Maria, get your team ready," he ordered. "Full environmental suits. We don't know what we're walking into down there." Security Chief Maria Rodriguez nodded. She was a tough woman with dark hair and scars from her years as a Marine. Her team had trained for situations like this, but nothing had prepared them for what they were about to find. Dr. Helen Martinez joined the landing party, carrying her xenobiology equipment. "Captain, I'm reading some very strange energy patterns from those buildings. It's like they're alive somehow." Jake studied the readings on his tablet. The structures were definitely active, but they didn't seem hostile. If anything, they seemed to be welcoming the human ship. "Stay alert," Jake told his team. "Remember, we're here to find Dr. Thompson and his people. Everything else is secondary." The landing party left the ship and walked across the alien ground. The surface felt solid under their feet, but it had a strange quality, like walking on crystal. The buildings around them hummed with quiet energy. "This way," Maria said, following the signal from Dr. Thompson's emergency beacon. "The signal is coming from that tall structure." As they approached the building, its walls became transparent. Inside, they could see Dr. Alex Thompson and his research team. The missing scientists looked tired but unharmed. "Alex," Jake called, through his radio. "Can you hear me?" Dr. Thompson looked up in surprise. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and wire-rimmed glasses. His face lit up when he saw the rescue team. "Jake? Thank God you found us. We've been trapped here for weeks. Are you hurt?" Maria asked, checking the building for a way inside. "No, we're fine. But we can't leave this structure. Every time we try, the building phase shifts us back inside. It's like the planet won't let us go." Dr. Martinez ran her scanner over the building's walls. "Captain, this is incredible. The structure exists in multiple dimensions at the same time. That's why they can't leave." They're partially out of phase with normal space. Jake frowned. Can we get them out? I think so. But we'll need to use the probability drive to match their quantum state. Back on the ship, Chief Engineer Pete Johnson worked with his team to modify the probability drive. Lieutenant Lisa Morgan helped with the calculations, her brilliant mind working through problems that would have stumped most scientists. If we can sync our quantum signature with the building, Lisa explained, we should be able to pull them back into normal space. Pete nodded. It's risky, but it should work. Give me 10 minutes to recalibrate the drive. While the engineers worked, Dr. Thompson told his story through the radio. His team had been studying the ruins when their ship was destroyed by some kind of automated defense system. They had taken shelter in the nearest building, only to find themselves trapped. The strange thing is, Dr. Thompson said, the building seems to be trying to communicate with us. Dr. Brown thinks he's starting to understand some of the symbols. Dr. Kevin Brown was the team's archaeologist. He was young and excited even after weeks of being trapped. Captain, you need to see this. The symbols on the walls. They're not just decorations. They're some kind of instruction manual. Instructions. For what? Jake asked. For us. For humans specifically. It's like whoever built this place knew we would come here someday. Dr. Helen Martinez felt a chill run down her spine. Captain, I think we need to consider the possibility that humans have been here before a long time ago. Meanwhile, high above the planet, Admiral Vextar watched the human landing party through his long-range sensors. He couldn't see exactly what they were doing, but the ancient city was responding to their presence. Buildings that had been dark for centuries were now glowing with power. Sir, reported Sensor Officer Crix, the entire planet is activating. We're reading energy levels that shouldn't be possible. Vextar felt fear grip his heart. The humans weren't just exploring the ruins, they were controlling them. Every Zelkari legend about the deep core was coming true. On the planet's surface, Pete's modifications were working. The trapped research team began to phase back into normal space. Dr. Thompson stepped out of the building for the first time in weeks, breathing the alien air through his environmental suit. How did you do it? He asked Jake. Our probability drive. It seems to be compatible with the ancient technology here. Dr. Thompson's eyes widened. Compatible? Jake, that's not possible unless... He paused, thinking. Unless the people who built our drive were the same ones who built this place. The landing party gathered around Dr. Thompson as he explained what his team had discovered. The ruins weren't just ancient, they were a message left by a race that had vanished, long before any current galactic civilization had developed space travel. We call them the first ones, Dr. Thompson said. They built these sites throughout the galaxy. But here's the incredible part. They built them for us, for humans. That's impossible, Maria said. Humans only reached space 100 years. Dr. Brown pulled out his tablet, showing pictures of the symbols he had decoded. The first ones weren't human, but they shared some kind of genetic connection with us. Maybe we evolved from the same source, or maybe they guided our evolution somehow. Dr. Martinez ran new scans of the human team. Captain, I'm detecting some very interesting neural patterns. It's like our brains are naturally tuned to interact with this technology. Jake looked around at the glowing city. Everything was starting to make sense. The probability drive, their ability to navigate the quantum storms, the way the ancient defenses recognized them as friends, it was all connected. Lisa, he called to his science officer back on the ship. I need you to run a full analysis of our probability drive. Compare its quantum signature to the energy patterns from these ruins. A few minutes later, Lisa's voice came through the radio. Captain, they're identical. Our drive is based on the same principles as the technology. Here, it's like we reverse engineered their work. But that raised a bigger question. If the first ones had left technology for humans to find, what did they want in return? And what would happen when the rest of the galaxy learned that humans had a special connection to the most advanced technology in known space? High above, Admiral Vextar made a decision that would change everything. He couldn't attack the human ship, but he could try to talk to them. Maybe if he was very careful, he could learn what the humans really wanted. Open a channel, he ordered. All frequencies. Maybe we can get through the interference. Captain Sullivan heard the transmission as a garbled mess of alien words. But Amy Carter, working frantically at her communication station, managed to clean up the signal enough to make out a few key phrases. "Captain," she said, "I think they want to talk." Jake looked up at the stars, knowing that 100 enemy ships were waiting beyond the storm zone. His next decision could start a war or prevent one. And somewhere in the ancient city around him, the secrets of the first ones waited to be fully revealed. Captain Jake Sullivan stood in the ancient city and listened to the broken alien transmission coming through his radio. The Zelkari admiral was trying to talk, but the quantum storms were still scrambling most of the signal. "Amy, can you clean that up anymore?" he asked. Communications officer Amy Carter worked at her portable equipment trying different frequencies. "I'm getting something, Captain. The alien commander is saying, talk and no fight and something about understanding." Dr. Helen Martinez looked up from her scanner. "Captain, the city's communication system is still active. If we can figure out how to use it, we might be able to reach the alien ships directly." Dr. Thompson nodded eagerly. The symbols Kevin decoded, some of them are definitely related to communication. The first ones built this place to help different species work together. Jake made his decision. "Do it. Let's see if we can end this misunderstanding before it becomes a war." Dr. Kevin Brown led them to a tall spire in the center of the city. The building was covered in glowing symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. When Dr. Brown placed his hand on a crystal panel, the entire structure came alive with light. "It's responding to human touch," he said with excitement. "The first ones really did build this for us." Meanwhile, high above the planet, Admiral Vexitar paced on his bridge. 3 battle fleets surrounded the storm zone, but he was starting to think that military force was the wrong approach. The humans had done something impossible. They had activated the deep core. Fighting them now might destroy secrets that could benefit everyone. "Sir," called Sensor Officer Crix, "I'm reading massive energy buildups from the planet. Something big is happening down there." Vextar watched his screens as the ancient city blazed with power. Whatever the humans were doing, it was affecting space around the entire planet. The quantum storms were actually starting to calm down. On the planet's surface, the communication spire was working. Jake could feel the alien technology responding to his thoughts, translating his words into signals that could reach across the galaxy. "This is Captain Jake Sullivan of the United Earth Space Force," he transmitted. "Admiral Vextar, can you hear me clearly now?" The response came back immediately, in perfect English. "Captain Sullivan, this is Admiral Vextar of the Zelkari Empire. How are you able to use First One technology?" Jake smiled. The universal translator built into the spire was amazing. "It's a long story, Admiral, but the short version is that we share some kind of connection with the people who built this place. We're not here to invade anyone. We were just trying to rescue our people." There was a long pause before Vextar replied. "You mean you can activate First One sites? All of them?" Dr. Thompson stepped forward. "Admiral, this is Dr. Alex Thompson. My team has been studying First One ruins for years. They built these sites throughout the galaxy, but most of them have been dormant for thousands of years. We think they were waiting for the right species to activate them." "And that species is humanity?" Vextar asked. "It seems that way," Jake replied. "But Admiral, we don't want to keep this technology to ourselves. The First Ones built these sites to help all species advance together. Maybe we can work together to understand what they left behind." Chief Engineer Pete Johnson was monitoring the conversation from the ship. He had an idea that might help prove human intentions. "Captain," Pete called through the radio, "I think I can use the spire to help repair some of the damage to the alien ships. The storms destroyed several of their vessels, right?" Jake's eyes lit up. "Admiral Vextar, we'd like to offer assistance. Our engineer thinks he can use the First One technology to help repair your damaged ships." Admiral Vextar was quiet for a long moment. His military advisors were probably telling him it was a trap, but something about the human captain's voice made him want to trust. "You would help us? Even though we were prepared to attack you?" "We understand why you were worried," Jake replied. From your perspective, we appeared out of nowhere with impossible technology. Anyone would be concerned about that. Dr. Martinez had been studying the data from the city's computers. Captain, I'm finding information about other First One sites. There are hundreds of them scattered across the galaxy. Medical facilities, energy generators, research stations. They built an entire network to help younger species develop. Lieutenant Lisa Morgan joined the conversation from the ship. Admiral, the technology here could revolutionize medicine and energy production for every species in the galaxy. But it only responds to human neural patterns. We'd need to work together to make it useful for everyone. This was the moment that changed everything. Admiral Vextar realized that the humans weren't offering to share some weapons technology. They were offering to share the greatest discovery in galactic history. Captain Sullivan, Vextar said slowly, what exactly are you proposing? Jake looked around at the glowing city, at his rescued crew, and at the alien ships waiting beyond the storms. A partnership, Admiral. Humans can activate the technology, but we'll need help from other species to understand what it all means. The First Ones left this for all of us to share. Pete's repair beam reached up from the planet and touched one of the damaged Zelkari ships. The alien vessel's broken hull began to glow as First One technology repaired damage that would have taken months to fix in a shipyard. Impossible, whispered Sensor Officer Crix as he watched his readings. Our hull integrity is at 100%, better than when the ship was new. Admiral Vextar felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Captain, I'm ordering my fleets to stand down. With your permission, I'd like to send a small team to the surface to see this technology for ourselves. You're welcome here, Admiral, Jake replied. Dr. Thompson and his team would be happy to show you what they've learned. As the first Zelkari shuttle descended through the calming storms, Captain Sullivan looked up at the stars. What had started as a simple rescue mission was becoming something much bigger. The discovery of humanity's connection to the First Ones would change the galaxy forever. Dr. Thompson placed his hand on another crystal panel, and new sections of the city came online. Ancient factories that could produce unlimited clean energy. Medical centers that could cure diseases no one had ever seen before. Research facilities that could unlock the secrets of the universe itself. Jake, Dr. Thompson said quietly, I think we just became the most important species in the galaxy. Maybe, Jake replied. But the First Ones didn't build this for us to rule over others. They built it for us to help others. That's what we're going to do. 6 months later, the First One Research Council included representatives from dozens of species. Human-activated sites were providing clean energy to entire star systems. Medical technology from the ancient ruins was saving millions of lives. And Captain Jake Sullivan, now Admiral Sullivan, led joint exploration missions to discover new sites throughout the galaxy. The panic about human warships had become excitement about human partnership. Sometimes the greatest victories came not from showing strength, but from extending friendship when others expected conflict. The USS Dakota had carried its crew into the unknown and brought back hope for everyone. In his final log entry about the mission, Jake wrote, Today we learned that the greatest treasures in the universe are not meant to be hoarded but shared. The First Ones knew this. Now finally, so do we.